The alarms weren't supposed to sound on a day like this. The great orbital station drifting above Tau Ceti was quiet, humming with the lazy indifference of machinery that had worked for centuries. Its outer hull gleamed like polished bone, a relic from a forgotten age of colonists who had believed in permanence. But inside Docking Bay 12, the klaxon howled like a starving animal. Captain Elias Rourke froze mid-step, a mug of bitter synth coffee halfway to his lips. His first thought was that the station's system was having another one of its nervous breakdowns. Half the consoles dated back to the first human settlement out here, and none of the engineers had dared replace them. It was cheaper to patch, weld, and whisper prayers into the circuits. But this sound wasn't the sputter of bad programming. This was sharp, urgent, predatory. He set the mug down and ran. By the time he reached the bay, the doors were already straining against something on the other side. Lights flickered, bathing the deck in crimson. Dockmaster Lena was shouting into her comm, her pale hands flying across a console like a pianist gone mad. "It's not on the manifest," she yelled. "It just attached itself. Elias, it's not human. The clamps are melting." The captain's throat dried. Not human. The last time she'd said those words was during the Ort harvest, when a drifting biometal husk had chewed its way through a survey ship. Only luck and a suicidal engineer with a plasma torch had stopped it from spreading. Since then, the unspoken rule was, if it's not human, you burn it before it learns your language. But Elias wasn't the kind of man who trusted rules written in fear. He was a believer in curiosity, even when it got people killed. The bay doors cracked open with a hiss, spilling vapor across the floor. A shape stumbled through the mist, wrapped in a long cloth that dragged like a funeral shroud. The alarms died. The silence that followed was worse. Lena whispered, "God help us." The figure straightened. Thin, taller than Elias by a head, its movements uncertain, like it was learning gravity anew. The cloth slipped enough to reveal an arm too slender, skin glowing faintly blue-green, as though veins had become constellations. The creature's head turned toward them, and though Elias couldn't see its face, he felt the weight of its attention press into his skull. Something about it wasn't right. Not monstrous, no claws, no fangs, no grotesque features to terrify a child. Instead, it was the wrongness of familiarity. A body nearly human, almost perfect in symmetry, yet every proportion shifted by an invisible hand. Too much grace where clumsiness should be. Too much poise where awkwardness belonged. It was like looking into a mirror where the reflection was better than you. "Seal the bay," Elias snapped, but his voice cracked. "Don't let anyone else in." The creature swayed. The cloth slid further. Lena took an involuntary step back, her lips trembling. Elias, against his better judgment, took one forward. The alien's voice came out as a whisper. Not through the air, but directly into their ears. "I'm not clean." Every hair on Elias's neck stood upright. The words were perfectly human, accented with something he couldn't place. More than that, it sounded ashamed. The cloth loosened, fluttering to the ground like a dying bird. For a heartbeat, Elias saw what lay beneath. His heart stopped. It should have stopped forever. But his body forced him to breathe, and that act alone snapped him back into motion. He didn't remember slamming the emergency barrier, didn't register shouting for Lena to get the station medics. His thoughts were a scattered mess, spiraling around that single impossible image beneath the cloth. A form too human to dismiss as alien, too alien to ever mistake for human. Skin like starlight fractured through glass. Eyes not eyes but abysses filled with movement. A face both beautiful and horrifying because it hovered just at the edge of recognition, as though every human dream of perfection had been stitched together by trembling hands. "I'm not clean," she whispered again. Her lips moved this time, delicate and trembling. "Don't touch me." Elias forced his voice into steadiness. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Her gaze shifted from him to the bay walls, to the massive steel and rusting rivets. She looked lost. Afraid. "This isn't home." Lena pressed herself against the console, knuckles white. "Captain, we should vent her. Whatever that thing is, it boarded us without permission, it's contaminating." "Shut it," Elias snapped, harsher than intended. He had never liked Lena's instinct to burn first and ask questions later. But inside, his heart was racing just as fast. The alien, no, the woman, for that was the only word his brain could apply, was trembling violently. Not in rage. In despair. Something inside him, something reckless and foolish, whispered, "Talk to her." "Not clean," she whispered again. "The cloth held it back, but it won't hold forever. When it falls, your heart." Her eyes, black with starshine, locked on his. "Your heart will stop." The medics came running, only to be stopped by the barrier. Elias held his palm against the glass, staring at her. He knew he should follow protocol, isolate, purge, erase. But there was something else at play here, something deeper than contagion or infiltration. She wasn't trying to kill them. She was warning them. "Captain," Lena said quietly, "if you don't act now, it's on you when this station goes dark." He didn't look away. "Then it's on me." And that was how it began, the strangest first contact in human history, not with a conqueror or a savior, but with a woman who claimed she was unclean. A woman wrapped in a cloth that could not hold forever. A woman whose very presence threatened to stop the human heart. Continues with world building, character backstories, humor in crew reactions, exploration of the alien woman's strangeness, conflict escalation, and setting up high stakes for survival and trust. The cloth was gone, and with it the fragile barrier between terror and understanding. Elias Rourke hadn't told anyone what exactly he saw beneath it. Words refused to form around the image, as though language itself was unwilling to betray the vision. But his crew saw enough of his reaction to know one thing: the captain had been shaken, and Elias Rourke was not a man easily rattled. The woman, if that word still sufficed, sat in the isolation chamber now. Layers of shielding surrounded her, but she made no attempt to resist. She looked smaller than before, hunched on the cot with the remnants of the cloth folded across her lap. From time to time, her lips moved silently, rehearsing phrases. Not prayers, Elias thought. Warnings. Lena paced outside the chamber, muttering under her breath. "We can't keep it here. We don't know if it eats oxygen, if it carries spores, if it can slip through metal. She said she's not clean, Captain. She told you herself." Elias folded his arms. "And that's why we can't throw her into space just yet. If she's dangerous, she knows more about it than we do. That makes her valuable." "Valuable?" Lena hissed. "She's a time bomb wrapped in skin." Elias's jaw tightened. He hated Lena's words because they echoed his own fear. Yet when he glanced back at the figure in the chamber, he saw not malice but exhaustion. She wasn't an invader. She was contaminated. Maybe cursed. Maybe both. And the strangest part, she didn't look like she was fighting to spread it. She looked like she was fighting to keep it contained. The council of senior officers gathered in the wardroom hours later, voices heated, hands slamming tables. Elias let them argue. He'd been through enough crises to know that fear needed to burn itself out before reason could surface. He sipped his coffee and studied their faces, scientists who'd seen stars die, soldiers who'd survived wars, engineers who had patched the station through meteor storms. Not a weak soul among them, and yet every one of them looked like children dragged into the dark. "She's a carrier," said Dr. Henshaw, pounding his fist. "Whatever's inside her, it'll infect us, warp us. You saw what happened to the Orion colony. A single spore, and within a month they weren't human anymore. She boarded us," Lieutenant Cray snapped. "That's infiltration. It's textbook alien warfare." "No," Elias said, finally. His voice cut clean through the room. "She boarded us because she was running. You all saw it, the desperation, the exhaustion. That wasn't an infiltrator. That was a refugee." Cray sneered. "Refugee from what?" That question silenced the room. Later, Elias found himself alone at the observation pane of the isolation chamber. The woman alien, hybrid, anomaly watched him with unreadable eyes. They weren't hostile, yet they weren't pleading either. They simply regarded him like a puzzle waiting for the first piece. "You warned me," he said quietly, knowing the intercom would carry his words. "But I'm still here. Still breathing." Her lips curved, not quite into a smile. The cloth slowed it. Without it, the rhythm inside me bleeds. It touches others. Your heart was weak for only a moment. Later, it will not be only a moment. Elias leaned on the railing. Then help me understand. What are you carrying? She looked down at her hands. The faint glow of her veins pulsed like starlight caught in skin. Not carrying. Being. I am not clean because I am not one. I am many. I hold echoes of what touched me, long ago. You see me and think I am woman. But if the cloth falls, you feel the weight of all I have consumed. All I remember. Your heart cannot carry that weight. Elias swallowed hard. He wasn't sure if she meant biological contamination or something deeper, psychic, spiritual, metaphysical. Either way, she believed it. And somehow, against all reason, Elias believed her too. The first complication came sooner than expected. Sensors lit up with an inbound object, drifting fast toward the station. Not a ship, not exactly a derelict mass of wreckage stitched together, radiating faint energy signatures. At first the crew assumed it was debris. Then it changed trajectory, adjusting to intercept. Cray nearly broke the comm in half. That's a hunter. Whatever she's running from, it's here. Elias felt the same chill crawl his spine. He rushed back to the chamber, slapping the comm panel. Is that what chased you? Out there? Her head snapped up. For the first time, fear blazed raw across her face. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. What followed was chaos, scrambling fighters, shields raised, engineers cursing as systems sputtered awake. The derelict closed fast, pieces of its hull peeling away like petals. Beneath the scrap metal disguise, something alive writhed. Not mechanical, not biological, but a grotesque blend of both. A construct made to hunt. The alien woman pressed her hands against the glass of her chamber, eyes wide. It smells me. You cannot hide me. Elias cursed. Of course. Whatever this thing was, it hadn't tracked them by sensors, it had tracked her, the way a wolf scents blood. And now it was here, pounding at their door. And so on, escalating battle, station under siege, crew forced to consider releasing the alien woman to survive. She proposes an unorthodox way to fight the hunter by turning her unclean essence outward. Elias wrestles with whether to trust her. Lena argues to eject her. Tension builds as systems fail. And the section ends on a cliffhanger where they must make the impossible choice. The hunter wrapped the station like a leech. From the observation decks, crew watched its tendrils stretch across the hull, peeling back metal panels as though tasting them. The thing wasn't a ship, it was hunger given form, an organism designed to fuse with anything it touched. Its outer hide bristled with half-digested wreckage, the skeletons of old vessels, rusted plating, splintered weapons. Whatever it devoured, it wore. Elias stood in the command bridge, fists clenched, every console around him screaming red. Shields were failing. Oxygen levels in Sector 7 were collapsing. Fighters swarmed like gnats around the beast, their firepower barely scoring its surface. And at the center of the chaos, in the isolation chamber, the woman watched with her star-black eyes, silent and trembling. "Captain," Cray shouted over the alarms. "It's breaching outer layers. 10 minutes before we're swallowed whole." Elias's mouth was dry. He had always believed in humanity's stubbornness, that humans survived not by being strongest, but by being too damn difficult to erase. But this thing didn't care about stubbornness. It was inevitability given flesh. He slammed his med bay, report. Static answered. Then a voice, "Containment breach, Captain. Something's moving in the vents." Not human. Lena, pale as bone, turned from her console. "It's not just outside. It's inside." The first boarding forms slithered through the corridors like shadows made solid. They were fragments of the hunter, extensions of its will, each dragging itself on limbs grown from stolen steel. Soldiers fired, bullets sparking off alien metal. The station's halls echoed with screams and plasma bursts. The war had come home. Elias ran. He had no business charging into firefights at his age, but command meant more than sitting in a chair. He reached the lower decks to see 3 of his crew pinned behind makeshift barricades, the corridor alive with shrieking constructs. One of them had grafted a human skull into its chest like a trophy. Elias raised his rifle, squeezed the trigger. The thing staggered back, sparks cascading from its body. But for every one they downed, 2 more came. "Fall back," he roared. Sector 4 bulkheads, now. Back at the isolation chamber, the woman pressed against the glass, her voice trembling through the intercom. "It will not stop. It is not alive in the way you know. It feeds, and it will keep feeding, until nothing remains but itself." Elias's lungs burned as he stormed in, rifle slick with sweat. "Then tell me how to stop it." Her gaze cut into him. "You already know. You saw it when the cloth fell. My weight, my echoes, they drown the human heart. But turned outward, that weight can drown anything." Lena recoiled. "You're suggesting we weaponize you? That's suicide." The woman's hands tightened against the glass. "It is not survival that matters. It is choice. If you keep me locked, you will be consumed slowly. If you free me, I may consume it first. But your captain knows," her eyes pinned Elias, "the price will not be light." The choice spread like fire through the crew. Arguments erupted in corridors, soldiers demanding she be used, medics screaming it was murder. Half the council begged Elias to eject her immediately, the other half demanded he unleash her. In the chaos, Elias found himself remembering her first whisper, "I'm not clean." She hadn't asked for pity. She had warned them. Every moment she had begged for isolation, for distance. She wasn't predator. She was plague. And yet, as more screams filtered through the comm, as more hulls buckled, the truth hit him. Humanity's only chance lay in the very contamination she feared. When the release came, it was almost anticlimactic. A hiss of air, a groan of servos, and the chamber door opened. The cloth lay folded at her feet. She rose slowly, every motion heavy with resignation. Elias met her eyes, and for the first time he saw not alienness, not wrongness, but unbearable loneliness. "Guide me," he said softly. "Tell me what you need." She stepped past the threshold. The lights flickered. Every monitor on the deck stuttered static. Crew clutched their chests, gasping, their pulses faltering. Elias himself felt his heart seize, one breath of pure terror, and then she pulled it back, reining herself in like a beast on a chain. "Toward the hunger," she whispered. "Before the cloth of this station tears." The silence after the battle was worse than the alarms. The station drifted among the husks of what had once been the hunter, its tendrils shredded, its hide collapsing into lifeless wreckage. Fighters circled cautiously, as if expecting the ruin to rise again. But it did not. For the first time in days, the void was quiet. On the command deck, Elias staggered to his feet. Smoke curled from ruined consoles, sparks danced across the floor. His chest still ached from the echo of her power, from the way his heart had buckled under the weight she carried. Around him, crew members gasped and wept, alive by a thread. And she stood in the center, trembling, barely upright. Her star-black eyes dimmed now, her glow fading. The cloth lay torn behind her, no longer able to contain what she had released. "It is done," she whispered. "The hunger is drowned." Elias swallowed the lump in his throat. "You saved us." Her gaze lifted to him, and for a moment he thought she might smile. But instead, she shook her head. "I ended it, but I cannot stay. My weight will keep spilling. Already your people feel it." He saw it then, crew members holding their chests, shivering, not from wounds but from the lingering shadow of her presence. A burden they were never meant to bear. "What happens to you?" he asked. She looked toward the stars, her voice soft. "I dissolve. The echoes scatter. Better this way." Lena, bruised and shaken, stepped forward. "So that's it. She dies and we just pretend it never happened?" "No," Elias said firmly. His voice carried across the deck. "We remember. We survived because she carried what we could not. Not clean," she said. "But what she gave us was cleaner than anything I've seen in war. She chose sacrifice." The alien woman lowered herself to the floor, eyes closing. "Fear always says destroy what you do not understand. But compassion is the only weapon hunger cannot devour." And then she was gone. Not in blood or fire, but in light, scattering like stardust through the deck until only silence remained. The weeks that followed were a blur of repairs. The station limped, scarred but alive. Hull plates were replaced, corridors rebuilt, lives mourned and honored. Humanity had once again done what it always did, endure. But Elias carried her words like iron in his chest. Fear destroys. Compassion saves. That was the lesson left behind in the ashes. He stood at the viewport one last time, watching Tau Ceti's sun rise. Lena came beside him, quieter now, her suspicion dulled into reflection. "Do you think she was right?" she asked. "That compassion is stronger than fear." Elias let the silence linger before answering. "Fear builds walls. Compassion builds bridges. Only one of those leads to the stars." The sun burned gold across his face, and for the first time since the cloth had fallen, Elias's heart beat steady, strong, alive. And humanity, against all odds, had learned not just how to survive, but how to remain human.